Hello and welcome to the Aloha Studios interviews. My name is Keiko. I'm an artist and small business owner based in Kona, Hawaii. In this series, I'll be interviewing other artists and small business owners from around the world, hoping to inspire you and give you some good tips and tricks. Today, I'm chatting to a native Kiwi who loves chocolate, donuts, and bright colors. Her name is Stacey. She's a watercolor paint maker and creator of Stakewicolors in New Zealand. All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start with 5 quick questions. What's your favorite color?
Teal.
What's your favorite food?
Donuts.
Could have guessed that. What's your favorite season?
Spring.
What's your favorite animal?
Cats.
You have a cat, don't you?
I do. I have a lovely black cat, Monday.
And the last question, when you were a kid, what did you want to become when you grew up?
Funny story. I actually went through my career goals paperwork that I found from school, and it said teacher or psychologist. I think I might have been 12 or something, 12,
Aw.
13.
Yeah. How about
so
before that, like when you were really
that?
young? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I wanted to work in a zoo or something, perhaps, with animals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I loved animals.
I would still like to do that.
Me too.
Okay, so
that would be fun.
You are a maker of handmade watercolors. And my first question is, when did you first come across handmade watercolors?
I came across them in 2018, so not that long ago. So I came across the Sprout Creative because I was looking for shimmer watercolors and I couldn't find any in New Zealand. I went onto Etsy. I think I went onto Etsy and found them there. Yeah, it was like a very cheap palette with like the tiniest bit of paint in it. And I was using it all up, so I knew that I should invest in, a bigger size. So I had a look online and found the Sprout Creative. I liked her colors, and yeah, that was the beginning. I just started painting, and then I moved into making cards for family and friends. And I thought that using shimmer watercolors just added something really special, like an extra dynamic to the card itself. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I really enjoy this, and wanted more colors. So that's kind of how I got hooked in. Yeah.
Did you right away think, oh, this is cool, I want to do that as well? Or did that come later?
That came after I got the paints and I was watching how the paints were made on the Instagram of that particular account. And I would find myself keep going back to the same videos and getting just a hit from it. And I thought, I saw another maker and I saw how they were making it. And I thought, oh, maybe I could do that. So I just bought some of the basic ingredients and had a go and really enjoyed it and thought, oh, this is quite rewarding.
So that was a pretty quick process then. You received the paints, you tried them out, you liked them, and you found the maker on Instagram and you got hooked on the molding videos, basically.
It was like within weeks, really.
Yeah.
So and I'm just one of those type of personalities when I'm exploring a new type of hobby or whatever it is, I throw myself in 100% focused and get everything I need and then try it, see what I think. Did I enjoy this? What did I get out of this? And if I really enjoyed it, then I sort of just 100% stuck to it.
Do you remember the first colors, the first pigments you ordered?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were Pearl X ones.
Oh, yeah.
Pearl X shimmers. And I think one of them was a purple a golden pink, and I think there was a darker purple. So there was two purples. There's a theme there. Oh, and of course the turquoise tealy color. There might have been a gold, but all shimmers.
All shimmers.
All shimmers. Yeah, shimmers. Because they were so easy to work with, and the Gamma Rabbit was like a store-bought one, like all ready to go. Winsor Newton, maybe. So it's just a 60 ml bottle and palette knife, just a little cutting board, glass cutting board, and I did it with my mother as well. She was there, so we did it together. So that was quite cool.
Did you at that point already think, ooh, I could make a business out of that? I could be selling those paints, or was it really just for your own enjoyment at first?
Just for me to be able to have the colors that I want at my hands. And I guess the idea of mixing those colors as well to make convenient shades was quite exciting. So I thought that's pretty cool how I can mix the different pigments together to get different colors. I thought, oh, that's fun. And initially it was just for friends and family and myself. Yeah, so I wasn't even thinking about selling at that stage at all. Yeah, funny how it all happened.
I would be interested in what you did before, job-wise, or were you mostly at home? So before you started to become a watercolor maker and sell your paints, what did you do?
I was, at that time, working at the local kindergarten, and I think I was doing a couple of days a week because my background is I'm a registered primary school teacher. And we moved into a small town. They were short on registered teachers. So I was doing a couple of days in the kindergarten, the same kindergarten that my son was attending. And also because he was only going to kindy so many hours a week, I was at home looking after him as well. So I was mostly a stay-at-home mum. We do have a family business, and I was doing a few bits and bobs from home as well for that.
The supermarket, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I was doing paperwork and accounts and things like that from home, which meant I didn't have to go into the shop. So that worked really well, that I could be at home, which led to me being able to explore watercolor making in the home environment. So that kind of suited me.
I'm just curious to know if the watercolors came along at the right moment and you were actually looking for something like that.
Yes, because Thomas started school.
Your son?
Yes, my son started school around about the time that I launched my business. So it kind of sort of just all fell into place, because when he went to school, he suddenly went from being at kindy 7 hours a week to being at school about 30 hours a week. That meant that me being a stay-at-home mum, I had all that time free. I was also making quite a lot of cards as well for friends and family, doing watercolor making cards. And I launched like a little Facebook page for that. So I was selling the cards as a little thing so that's kind of where it really started, was the watercolor making cards. And then that led to me finding the paint, the watercolor paint, handmade. So yeah, I was sort of juggling a few different things at that time when I came across the handmade watercolors and started sort of just having a little bit of a play.
So you sold on Facebook first. When you started to sell your paints, did you have the idea for your own website right away, or did you start with Etsy or Facebook, or how did that go?
So I didn't start with Facebook for my watercolors, which is quite interesting. I actually started on Instagram and launched on Etsy. So I launched on Etsy about a month or so later after making paints. and I was on Etsy for a good 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
you experimented for a month and then started
yeah, I
selling
think so.
again?
I
Yeah.
think
Mm-hmm.
maybe a month or longer. It's all
Mm-hmm.
a bit of a blur because during that time, that was when my son was preparing to go to school,
Mm-hmm.
which was a lot of work at the time, getting him organized for that. So everything is a bit of a blur then, but it
Mm-hmm.
was at least a couple of months, I'm pretty sure, that I was playing around a bit.
It
Yeah.
still sounds as if you just got hooked pretty much right away and you knew that that was
Yeah.
something you wanted to do for a longer time. Did you get encouragement from followers on Instagram to sell your paints, or was it just your own idea to, oh, I could actually sell these?
I believe that it was me who decided to do it. At that stage, I was on Instagram, but I didn't really have too much of a community at that stage, I don't believe.
Do you remember
Uh,
how many followers you had?
maybe 150.
Oh,
Not,
really?
not that many. Yeah, pretty little. Yeah, maybe 200. I don't know. Not many. I ended up with extra paint and I didn't know what to do with it all. So I just thought, well, if I put it on Etsy, maybe someone might buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I must have got my first sale within the week. And that
So,
was such a rush
mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
excitement. Yeah, that first sale.
Can you tell me how you went about that first sale? Did you just announce it on Instagram? Did you put it in a post, or did you just put it in Etsy and hope that somebody will just stumble upon your paint and purchase it?
I put it on my Instagram. I did. And then I put it in my Instagram. Sorry, my Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I got a sale, and I believe that there was a conversation there between me and the person who made it on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
first. So that connection had already been made prior to the sale. So it felt more than just an exchange of, say, money. It
Yeah.
felt more personal,
Mm-hmm.
like I was selling to a friend already, even though, I didn't know her. We had conversed back and forth a while first before I got the sale. So yeah, I'll always remember that.
Your first sale. So
Yeah.
basically, from the start, you were having this connection with your
Yes.
customers.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. At that point, when you made your first sale, did you already have the name Stay Kiwi Colors, or and the logo and all these things, or did that just come up after a while?
I had the name Stay Kiwi Colours from the very beginning. When I made that decision, it had to be something memorable, sort
Mm-hmm.
of.
Mm-hmm.
But the logo was a handmade painting by me before I changed it.
Mm-hmm.
So the logo itself has probably gone through 3 adaptations
Yes.
since.
Yeah.
But the idea behind it is the Kiwi.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And Stay as in
Yeah.
Stacy. Mm-hmm.
Stay Kiwi. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
So for your brand, Stay Kiwi Colors, what are your points, your factors? So how would you describe your own branding?
I've got 2 main products, which is handmade paints and teaching how to make watercolors.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be that's sort of where I'm coming from with those 2 things. There is just making sure that what it is that you're going to be selling, that
Mm-hmm.
you are how do I say, you're consistent in the way that you're communicating what they mean and what they look like. But
Yeah.
with me, I've always been consistent with those 2 things, because not long after I started, I launched my website, and
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very passionate from not long after when launching the website that I really wanted to have a blog and a shop, because I really wanted people to come, not just to buy paints, but people can come and they can learn how to make paint,
Mm-hmm.
how it's made, because some people like me, that's where they start out. They get hooked and then they want to learn how it's made, and then they think, oh, I can do that myself. So I want there to be a one-stop shop for them, a place where they can go. So
So,
that's kind of,
right,
yeah,
STAKIWICOLOURS is a shop, and it's also a community of
yeah,
aspiring paint makers.
that's right. And that's why that's one of the big reasons I went off Etsy, actually, is because Etsy couldn't provide me with a blog. It couldn't provide me with the ability to send out information to people, or a forum. I thought, wouldn't that be cool to have a forum where you can meet other people who like watercolors, or if you're making watercolors, you can help each other. So I thought I can have that all in one place on my website, and then that gets extended onto my Instagram, where I would have little excerpts of all the different posts that I was sharing on my blog about different types of pigments or problems with pigments or binder recipes, and then getting people to guest blog as well, sharing watercolor techniques as well, so that there was more content there that people could grab at if they wanted
Mm-hmm.
to.
It's really a
So
one-stop shop then. It's watercolor
yeah,
techniques, it's information about
yeah,
pigments, it's the
yeah,
forum, asking questions, finding answers,
absolutely,
and buying
yeah.
the paints.
So I think I was always consistent about that. As soon as I officially launched my
Mm-hmm.
website, that's what I always wanted to do, was to
Mm-hmm.
be able to have people come, whether they want the paint or they have an environment where they can learn about the paint if they want
Mm-hmm.
to, because that's where my I guess my teaching experience comes from. I felt like, I could share information with people, because I found that people really enjoyed reading about how the paint was made. Even if they weren't going to make paint, they still enjoyed reading about it. So I thought, still
Yeah,
makes for great reading.
I think
Yeah. So I thought,
it's
why not?
interesting for the customers to know more about the paints they purchased. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, as well as a brand, that's integrity that extends into the product that you are sharing with your customers. You're being transparent about how that product is made, and that, you don't have any secrets about, what goes into that product. And that extends in itself to building trust with your customers or friends.
I think the words that you just mentioned, transparency and building trust, that
Yeah.
in my mind is probably one of the most important things to start a small business, and then to have it and for it to be consistent and successful.
I 100% agree with you. And that's why I mentioned even something as simple as having your brand and then your name in the bio, because that can make all the difference, because people will buy from someone they trust. They're more likely to buy from someone they trust as opposed to someone they don't know. So even something as simple as sharing your first name, something personal about you, or if it's you and someone else, that is part of building a relationship, building trust with the people that come to visit you on your page. That is part of the package that they're going to, the identity that they're seeing that you're going to portray to them. So for whatever reason that you don't wish to share your name, then that is a choice that you make about your identity and your brand, right? So
Well,
yeah,
you share a lot of stories about your personal life too.
yeah.
So I think there are also a lot of people out there who are a bit shy about that.
Yes,
Do you
yes.
have any tips on how you can still share things about yourself without being, without filming your
Super,
whole, yeah.
that's right. Yeah, like, woo, it's me.
Uh,
Yep, I entirely appreciate where you're coming from with that, because I know a few makers who are very shy.
mm,
And I would say to them that they can start off nice and small. if they don't feel comfortable sharing everything, and they don't have to share everything.
Oh no.
But it could just be little snippets like, this is my favorite color. That's a big thing that you can share that anyone can relate to. So just things about yourself, like, your favorite things that you enjoy. It might be your favorite cafe or your favorite drink, your favorite tea. You don't have to show your face or talk on video. You can just literally show your hand holding a cup of tea, just saying, I'm having a lovely cup of tea. And then someone might message you and say, oh, me too. What's your favorite flavor? And it just starts off with something like little like that. And I think that might be a nice manageable way to share personal things about you, so that you can build relationships that built on the foundation of trust, really. In the very beginning, it's about building rapport. So you're going to build rapport with people if they can relate to you.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to share anything about you, how are you going to build a community? Or do you not want a community? Do you just want a business that is separate to you? And that's what you've got to ask yourself when you're launching any kind of business, really.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that about yourself, or do you want to have that separate? But the thing is, if you are sharing more about yourself, even if it's just little snippets, then you're more than likely going to build a community naturally based on the rapport that you develop with your followers. Because people that are on Instagram are on there because they want to connect with people online. That's why we're there. So how can we help someone connect with another person? Well, they've got to build rapport. They've got to have common interests. And if you're not sharing anything about yourself, there's nothing.
It's not going to happen.
There's nothing happening there. And then when you're more comfortable, you can start sharing more about your family if you want to. You don't have
pets, to. Yeah, even your
pets,
environment.
People love that. Even like what the weather's like that day. And it is about your identity as well. So if there's certain things that you're really passionate about,
that's a good point.
Yeah, then you would share those as well. What you're really passionate about. So of course I'm really passionate about my son. So I share about him, and my followers love to see him. They love to know that the person that is making their paints is also a mother, and that that is part of my identity as a person, and that they're buying paint from someone who makes paint because it means a lot to them as well to make the paint. So for me, I'm making paint because it's really therapeutic. So that's why I share. It relates back to my son. It's part of my identity, and people really can, if they can't relate to that, they can certainly, feel it. They have a feeling about a reaction to it. And it's a very strong reaction, and grabs them right in the heart. But it's very much a part of my life, so I share that. And I also share about my cat. I'm very passionate about my cat. And food. Yeah, I share food. Oh yeah, you share food as well.
Oh
Food's great.
And cats.
Oh
and
yeah,
dogs and...
definitely. Yeah. And I think so that's part of your identity. And then I guess anything else that I share, well, not much at the moment because of lockdown, but
but I think you just mentioned it, things that we are passionate about. And that could be small things, but it could also be bigger things about your own identity, or basically anything. Yeah. So I think that's a really important point.
Absolutely, because that's where those connections are going to come from.
Yeah.
With your let's say our followers, the people that are there supporting us, is that if there are things that you're passionate about and they have the same passion, bam,
That's it.
Bam.
Right.
That might be a friend that you travel across the world to see. Hey, Keiko.
Yay.
So it's amazing.
We should mention that Stacey was actually here visiting me in Hawaii here, and she stayed here in my house and was fabulous. And I really hope we can do that again. But right now
I
it's
really
tricky.
hope, yeah, it is a bit tricky.
It
Or
is.
otherwise, hopefully you can come to New Zealand. That'll be great.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I'd
yeah.
love that. Oh, that would be
Oh
wonderful.
yeah, it would be awesome.
All right,
Oh,
I
but
have
time's
another question for you. Sorry for
ooh,
interrupting.
that's okay.
A more practical question. So when you look
Ooh.
at your day, I'm interested in how much time do you actually spend making paint, and how much time do you spend with admin, answering emails, messages, how much time on Instagram, and then housework, and what does your regular day look like?
So I spend about 25 hours a day. That was my joke. So yeah. Okay. When I first started out, I was on an unhealthy amount online.
Instagram, or basically
Yeah.
online
Oh,
everywhere?
the whole thing, just really not healthy at all. Too much, going to bed too late. Part of that problem was also that a lot of my followers were waking up when I was going to sleep.
Oh, the time difference.
The time
Yeah.
difference was a big
Yeah.
problem because I would end up staying up talking to people because that's what I love doing. And it was like, it'd be like midnight or later. It just wasn't ideal. And I was online a lot, just commenting on posts all the time and just messaging and all that sort of thing. I've really pulled that back a bit and just, making sure that I am in bed at a reasonable hour if I can. Depends what's happening that day, but that I am putting my phone down and leaving it, which is hard to do because it is like, it's how I run things. If I get a message from a customer, then I want to respond to them as quickly as I can, but really within a reasonable time frame. I don't have to respond within the minute. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's just having boundaries.
Right.
But your question is how long I spend. Good grief.
For the
Too
different
much.
parts of
Different
your
parts.
business. Yeah.
So what I try to do is I actually try to have like a couple of days dedicated to, say, making paint, and then a couple of days dedicated to shipping. So I might spend a couple of my days packaging and getting the orders out, and then I might, in part of that, those days I might spend on the computer, whether it's buying more supplies, researching supplies, answering emails or questions or messages for Instagram. And then with making paint, I might just spend like a whole day and just make heaps of paint and then just make bulk amounts of each so that I have it stored. And then that was the mistake I made in the very beginning, was that I was making small batches. So I'd make a small batch, do a layer, then I'd make another small batch for the second layer. And so it's about working smarter with the time that you've got, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I've done over a period of time, is just work smart about how I get things rolling out. So I've got a nice pace. So even if it's something like shipping orders, is that, you have a card that's already ready, you've got labels that you can print out instead of painting them out every single time, and having all the pigment made up and stored so that you can just easily pour them. So I might only spend maybe one day a week making paint, or two, and then the other days would be so I usually start at about 9-10 o'clock, and I take regular breaks, and then usually finish at around 4 or 5. Yeah.
Do you plan out your week or your month? Do you use any kind of planner like Trello or calendar or something like that?
I use my bullet journal, and I just have all my important deadlines paced out wherever they need to be. And then I work out where I've got a bunch of time to spend to be working on projects. It gets trickier when you're working on custom orders, because that is a different facet as well, as you're having to make certain colors that you wouldn't normally make, and I've got to, like figure out what colors I can make and when I'm going to make them. So I might only do all my mattes on one day or all my shimmers on another day, something like that. At the moment, I mean, where I'm sitting, I've got paint everywhere. But what I normally do is I have like a priority list of all the colors that have to be, made in the order they have to be made. And then the ones that have to be made, they're usually the ones that are, say, custom orders, or I do a lot of pre-orders as well. So they're made to order. So yeah, it's a bit.
It depends on how long the paint has to dry and other factors,
yes.
right? The priority.
Yeah,
list.
and that, yeah, absolutely. And that can be tricky as well when we have temperamental weather, which we've had recently with winter. Some of the paints have been taking longer to set, and now we've hit spring, the paints are fine now. So it's like they're drying so much faster. It's like, this is easy. But it's just over the winter period, things just dragged for a bit. Yeah. So it's, I certainly work smarter than I used to work. I was making it harder for myself to get stuff done, but now I've got such a good process, sort of systems in place. Everything's where it needs to be. Everything goes here, there, and there. And when I'm planning out my week, I already have an idea of what needs to get done in that week. Or I will set myself a deadline that they have to be shipped by this day. Yeah. And that's the day they're going to get shipped. And then I'll just have the systems that follow in from there. Yeah. Well,
that's another point
processes
for trusting the business, when people know, okay, I'm going to order and I know that Stacey's going to ship them out by this date, and then they can rely on that. So that's another thing, right? That you promise, and then you kind of try to fulfill that promise to your customer.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that's really important, that you have that follow through. Yeah. That, if you say you're going to do it, that you do it. If something happens that is out of your control, and it can happen, it's just making sure that you are transparent and honest about it, and that you communicate. Make up for it. Yeah, you communicate. And if it is something that, is out of your control, like the setting of paints, then you just send them extra. You let them know, look, this is not normal, but this is my way of saying, hey, I'm really sorry. And just be honest about it and communicate clearly about it. If something's not the way it should have been, then it's just having that integrity to say, look, that's not okay, let me fix it for you. So it's also having those intrapersonal skills as well, when being professional about dealing with things as well. So I think that makes people feel comfortable that you are in control, you know what you're doing, it's okay, everything will be fine. Yeah. So
do you have a theme or an idea for a whole year? So what I mean by that is, now when you're thinking about next year, is there something where you're like, okay, I have these 3 large projects, I want to do a certain theme or palette, or do you know what I mean? More like an
Yes, I do.
Overall goal for that year. Do you have that, or are you just going more spontaneously?
No, I do have an idea that I want to execute, and I won't share it with you because it's top secret. I'll tell you afterwards. But yeah, it's usually to do with something that's inspired me, and then I spend a bit of time researching it first, and making sure that I research my market as well, just to see what, like, is it going to be something that people would be interested in? Is it unique? I try to I try to do my own thing if I can, if that makes sense. So so I try to just stick to my own themes and my own inspirations. And I've had something that I'm working towards that will be happening, and that's sort of been, sort of stewing away for the last few months. So that will be definitely, there's a couple of projects there. So so those are sort of happening behind the scenes, and then when I'm ready, I'll start revealing bits and pieces. And
would you recommend that for new watercolor paint makers, that they should think not just about next week or maybe next month, but kind of make a plan for the whole year? What maybe about 3 bigger projects that I would tackle?
Yeah, I would, because it's about thinking about the resources that you have at your, what you have to work with. What can you do with those resources? Or especially if you are going to need to invest in more resources, that you do, it's a tricky one, because you don't want to just go out and just buy random pigments all the time. You want to have an idea of the sort of pigments that you're wanting, that you would like to launch. So I sort of have an idea of, these are the pigments that I would like to launch in the future, very near future, and they're going to work into this particular theme or type of service that I'm offering, because it can be a bit of a slippery slope, because you can end up buying all the pigments.
Oh yeah.
So it's really good if you can find a company that's able to give you samples, because then you're able to try them before you really invest in them, because some pigments are more expensive. If you're in a position to try samples, that's probably a more cost-effective thing to do as a maker. Otherwise, you can end up with a lot of pigments that you're just never going to use.
And
that's a problem. So it's about thinking about what resources do you already have that you can use that will tie into whatever it is that you're planning, or otherwise that you plan it and then you order the pigments that you need for your project. That's the most cost-effective way to do it.
And I think also to have a strategy for your business. So to think about, okay, I'm going to launch 6 sets next year, and they're going to be 3 themes, and it's going to be Halloween, Christmas, and spring. Let's just put something out there. Or I don't know, if you live in a certain area, you live in a certain part of New Zealand, you might do something that's more connected to you locally. That would be probably very interesting for people in New Zealand. So there are all these kinds of concepts that you can think about, and then have a plan for the following year, rather than just randomly throwing paints out, right?
I would say as well that if you're going to think about planning themes, that they're unique, they're different. I think it's great to do Christmas and Valentine's and stuff, but quite a lot of other makers are doing them as well.
Right.
So is that really unique? So that's the thing too. That's one thing I've never done. I've never done palettes like Christmas or whatever, but then it is still a good thing to do anyway. So it's just whether or not, if you do want to be really different, just see what everyone else is doing, because if you are new and you're trying to launch and there's 5 other makers that are doing something in the same thing, are you going to stand out? Or what could you do to make it stand out? I guess maybe. So it's a tricky one, because there are some months that are fun, like Halloween, for example, is a great month for launching.
Very fun.
Very fun, right?
Yeah.
So there are some months that are like special, and I think it just would depend on the following that you have, that you would be able to get away with launching themed palettes, that you would have enough people there that would be able to purchase them. But if you're just starting out and you've got to compete with all of these other makers, it would be hard, because you've got to get people to stop and look at your product and go, oh, I want that. And it's going to be from someone they've never bought from. So why would they buy it from you and not someone they've already bought from doing the same thing?
Right.
So
So if
Yeah,
you
I would just,
were doing matte pigments, or maybe even pigments that you source yourself from your
yeah,
area that you live in,
yeah,
and then they do kind of seasonal themes or something. I know makers who create palettes after TV series that they love.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah,
just fun things that they really love.
yeah,
And then, as you
yeah,
said before, you can connect to your customers because they love that series and then they want the palette because it
that's right.
reminds them of that.
Yeah.
So,
As long as, yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because
mm,
if you're in a position where you've got the steady amount of followers that would purchase that palette, that's fine. I would say go for it. If that theme is really passionate, you're really passionate about that theme when you're launching it. Don't do it because everyone else is doing it.
mm,
So if everyone else is doing, say, something for autumn, for example, because
yeah.
there's some beautiful autumn palettes out there, don't do it because other people are doing it. Do it because you're really passionate about the colors that you
Mm.
want to launch in that autumn palette. I would say do that. But if you're really passionate about something, make that part of the themed palette you're going to do. Just trying to think of the first palette I released. I think I did a mythical creatures palette. But it
That's a
had
pretty good idea. I haven't done
yeah,
that
that
yet.
was that was 3 years ago too. So back 3 years ago, I don't know if there was any mythical creature. There's been a heap more since then, but that was a collaboration with 5 other artists
Mhm.
too.
Oh,
So
that's a good point too. I mean, you just mentioned it. I mean, we have collaborated before, you and I,
yes,
but you've also
yes,
collaborated with other people. So I think that would
yes,
be another good tip for aspiring watercolor paint makers, right? To try and
yes.
find other
I would
people and
I would
collaborate.
definitely recommend doing that because it can get really overwhelming with all the pigments and trying to choose colors and names. And it's really nice to work with someone who will be using those paints more than you might be using them. If you're spending more time making the paint, then people would be able to extend their vision to you and then work together on it. Then it's a lot more exciting and it's a lot more meaningful. And through that extends sort of a deeper friendship and an extension of sharing each other's reach as well. Through them, you're going to meet more people, which is great. Because if you get on well, then it's likely that you're going to get on well with their friends, right? So it works really well. So it's like a give and take sort of a relationship.
It kind of ties
And
into that topic of brand ambassadors or brand reps.
yeah,
And you have
yeah,
those, and I have those too.
yeah,
Did you do that from the start, or did that come later?
that came. It probably came a few months after I started.
Mm,
So I'd say pretty close to the beginning.
mm-hmm,
And most in part, that started from a collaboration and working with artists with their vision and their opinions on what colours should be representing which, say, mythical creature in a theme.
mm-hmm.
And that was something that was like a project that we worked on together. So through that, I learned, how colour can mean different things to different people as well.
Yeah.
And that was really good for me to learn, and
Mm-hmm.
just how the colours can be used and represented, and how you can sort of present that to your followers, as a sort of a package, really, as part of
So would you
something
recommend
fun.
people finding brand ambassadors as soon as possible? Or maybe just wait a little bit and see how things go first?
I would wait a little while, because if you're going to start off with a brand ambassador, I think it's better to start with someone that you have a common interest and trust with one another, because the brand ambassador is someone that's representing you to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that that your common interests are fairly aligned, that you agree on things together, and that a brand ambassador is also very, very important in providing feedback. So feedback about the product, like ideally trying to give them the product before it even launches so they can tell you what they think about it. And that way you can improve the product should you need to, or just make some little tweaks. So yeah, the feedback is really important in making sure that the product is the best that it can be, which in itself extends towards integrity as a, you got bugs flying around you.
Mosquito.
I can see it.
I'm trying to not, like
yeah.
but they already got me 4 times.
Oh no.
I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
I guess it depends on the relationship you have with the brand ambassador, like what expectations that you want for them. But
yeah,
I just think they're so valuable because they are able to give you feedback about the product, what they think about it,
and then they will share artwork made with your paints.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's
yeah.
great to see how they use the colors as well, because sometimes you think in your mind, oh, that color would be great for this. And then they use it for something entirely different. And you're like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just the possibilities are endless, really, like what people can do with some of the colors and the mixes they achieve with using other paints. And then, it's fabulous. So I think they're just so valuable. And they definitely help with the direction of where things might end up going if you want that, but I guess it depends if you're running the business how you want, do you want that direction, or are you quite happy to, so I guess you've got to ask yourself where you want to go with it. But I think, brand ambassadors, if essentially they were once a customer, they're letting you know what they want, which speaks on behalf of the followers that you do have out there.
It's almost
about
like
the sort of colors.
It's almost a bit like outsourcing something, because they partially do marketing for you. If they're really passionate about your colors and they love them, they will recommend them to their friends, and they will make artwork with them. So do you outsource anything else, part of the admin work, or I don't know, part of your Stay Kiwi Colors business?
So we have an accountant, so that does the paperwork. So the accounting, the taxes. So that's outsourced. Besides that, it's all me. Yeah. Pretty much, which is kind of scary, really. Some of my suppliers I have a closer relationship with. So, they might give you extra samples and things to try out, which is great.
Do you write them personal emails? And do you write them emails and ask for samples, or is that just something that comes over time? You keep ordering the same pigments from the same suppliers, and then at some point they know you, and then they just automatically send the samples. Or do you actually start and try and start a conversation?
I always try to remember that, because I know what it's like to get those emails when people just ask you for stuff. So I usually think the best thing to do is to buy first and try the product, and then give them feedback on the product and let them know what you think about it, and give them the opportunity that that you would like to buy some more products, and if they would like some feedback on other colors or anything like that, then I'm more than happy to help.
So you're basically offering something in return, and trying to build.
I'm not trying to get something for free, because at the end of the day, it's actually in their best interest to give me the samples, because I'm most likely going to buy the pigments that they send me, right? So it's in their best interest to send me those samples. I'm highly likely going to buy the product after I try it. So generally what happens is I have a lot of conversations with them, emails, and they I just direct them and say, look, these are the sorts of colors I am interested in. If you have them, or, you know, want to send me a little sample, I'm happy to pay for a little sample as well, I've said. Then yeah, that would be great. And I can give you some feedback. I can send you photos of the product. So that's what I've done as well sometimes, is send them product photography, so they can use that. Or otherwise provide feedback to them directly
Well,
on
it's
the product.
basically, I mean, it's pretty much true for all parts of the business, though, isn't it? You give something and you get something.
Yeah.
Not just with your suppliers, but also with your customers and followers.
Yeah,
it's a
totally. And that's the same thing that you do, that I do, is send out a sample, dot samples, so that people can try a different color that they wouldn't normally buy. Or otherwise I'll put in a dot sample or two of the colors I think they would like. And then, you know, you get a message back saying, I want those colors.
Right.
Because, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I thought you might like that one. Yeah, it goes with all the other ones that you bought, you know. So it's just that personal, you know, say
which
thanks,
also shows
you know.
that after a while you get to know your customers, and you know what colors they like and what kind of motives they paint, and it's
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's really important, and for people to work out when they're choosing to go with maybe a few different makers that they wish to purchase from regularly, is the sort of color hues that the certain maker is able to offer. You know, that you have the sort of a unique range of colors that you can offer. So it's just whether or not you're their cup of tea, really, at the end of the day. So and whether they're happy with the way the product behaves too. It's really important that it's good quality. And yeah, I think that's pretty much
for my last question is basically, in your mind, when you look at your business, are you happy with it? Is that successful in your mind? Do you want to go somewhere else with it? What's your take on Stakewicolors?
My take is that for a long time I've wanted to extend my brand locally. So I've really wanted to do workshops. So at the moment, a lot of the content that I offer is online. So if it's my website, so a lot of my effort has gone into my website, and putting out a online watercolor making course, which was a really big project that started in January this year.
Yeah, I know.
And by doing that, it's so huge, it was intimidating. So it's been absolute, I'm really proud of that, because it's just such a big job. And so now that's all done, I think that by doing that course, that's helped me break down all the facets that one needs in learning how to make watercolors, but also for me teaching it. So that I think I'm confident now that I would be able to offer in-person courses. And it also the timing needed to be right, so that enough people knew about me sort of locally, I guess, to offer me the opportunity to come along and offer a workshop in person. I was supposed to have my first workshop this weekend, but lockdown. So it's just been postponed. I've got everything ready. So when lockdown, whatever happens, well, that will be my next sort of adventure, is teaching classes in person. And also another thing that I'll be doing is continuing my Kiwi Colour Club subscription project as well. So I'll be starting a new round soon. And that went really, really well. I think we were talking about that the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
When I first launched my subscriptions, when I was a smaller account, I got 2 subscriptions filled. So 2 people that
and now you have a waiting list.
yeah. So it's just, it doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Just take your time, enjoy it, focus on building relationships, genuine relationships with people, and yeah, just making sure that you have an identity that speaks to who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Don't try and be someone else that that you think everyone else wants you to be, or don't try and do something that everyone else is doing because you think that's going to sell. Do something that means something to you, because people will get that totally, I reckon. Yeah.
So could you just
yeah.
point people towards your website and the course and
Oh
anything
yeah.
else you can just think of right
Should
now?
I go like this? Go to the link. No, I'm just joking.
I will put it in the caption too, but you know,
Yeah.
we can just maybe mention it.
Yeah. So I guess the easiest way to find me is through you because of the Aloha Kiwi Challenge that we've been doing this year, which is a big collaboration.
Yeah.
But yeah, my website is definitely a great place to start because it's got everything there. It's got the Instagram, it's got the forum. I've also got pages with resources on it so that you can go to other pages to look for other things.
So that's staykiwicolors.com, and
staykiwicolors.com
is with
colors with
an
a U.
O-U,
Yes.
so
O-U.
COLOURS.com.
Yes.com. Yeah.
Right. And
then
the course, where can we
the
find
course, that is class101.com. And you just type in Stay Kiwi Colors into the search engine and you'll find me, because I think I'm probably the only one on there that's doing handmade watercolors for that particular platform. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. And I think you can still I think the prices are still cheap at the moment. I think they've got a sale going on or something. So that launched, was it last week? And so I've been spending a little bit of extra time just on my phone, responding to questions and comments. And people have been posting their projects as well that I gave them that they had to complete. So yeah, so it's a very interactive course, which is quite cool because there's that relationship is there that's continued beyond the actual course that's happening, which is fabulous. That's how I would like a course to be, that there is a two-way relationship there, that they're able to, because they're seeing a lot of my face in that course. So it only makes sense that they can connect with me outside of just watching me as a person. So yeah, that's quite cool. I'm just looking at my notes and seeing if there's anything else that I was supposed to mention, but
I think we're super good. And
I think that's all good.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm very excited that I got to talk to you, and I learned about
Thank you so much.
a few things I didn't know about you, which was pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
Thank you, Stacey, and
Thank you so much.
around, and I'll talk to you soon.
I hope so.
Bye.
Bye.